Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Newton. Welcome back to the Club Junkie podcast. Week 2 of filming. I think week 1 went okay. I think it was watchable. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I think it was watchable. But welcome back. Hopefully, you guys have had a great week. I know I'm excited. Last week, this week, it's still launch time. And launch time means new clubs, new equipment, and it's just super exciting. So the cool thing about working here at WRX also is the fact that I take a lot of the photos that you see on the front page, and I don't know if that's a brag or basically admitting that, that I stink. I'm not a photographer. I'm not very good. But I take a lot of the photos that you see on the front page for a lot of the stories. And it's kind of cool because I, get to have all this stuff here in my house or at the office or whatever. And it's always, here at my disposal in a sense. And I get to see it, a little earlier than everybody else for the most part. But it's kind of cool that I've sat on a lot of this stuff for like weeks, and now finally getting to talk about it is awesome. It's such a great thing. So today we're going to jump into the new TaylorMade stuff, Sim2. So I know last year Sim was huge. TaylorMade had a really good year with Sim. I think there was a lot of great products, a lot of people playing them. And this year is, year 2 of the Sim. So Sim2 is the name of the lineup. I know it's not, the craziest, most original name in a sense, but it works. And if you had a good year with a driver last year, why not stick with, a very relatable name and keep rolling with it? So I've actually had this stuff out a couple times out on the range. I haven't been able to hit anything on the course yet, or any of this new stuff on the course really, just because it's just been either too cold, either snow on the ground, rainy, sleety, whatever. I just haven't had a chance to get this stuff actually on the course. But I've been outside on the range, so watching ball flight, hitting at targets, and things like that. So pretty much like the next closest thing. The only thing I don't really get is I don't get turf interaction because the range near me doesn't have grass tees. And the one that's closest to me with grass tees, I just don't. It's a long drive from where I live, and I just don't feel like driving out there. So, but I've had it on the range, and it's it's been really good. I'm gonna hopefully get some stuff on a launch monitor here soon. Like I've told you guys before, I'm not a huge launch monitor guy. It's not a big thing to me whether the spin rate's 2,700 or 2,800 or whatever the number is. For me, it's all about getting it on the course, and does it play well? Do I keep it in the fairway? Does it get me to the spots that I'm used to being or beyond? Stuff like that. So I haven't been able to do that yet. It's probably going to be a little bit for me, but like I said, I've been able to get on the range, a couple times, which has been nice. So let's jump into Sim2. Like, I'm super excited. I played Sim Max all last year, or for most of my last year. I mean, I had a bunch of other drivers in the bag just to review them and talk about them. But my gamer was a Sim Max, and I really liked it. I've had really good luck with TaylorMade drivers over the past couple of years. So it was nice to play that driver. I felt like the misses were pretty good. And I kept it in play better than anything else I tried. So Sim2 Max was my driver last year, and there was Sim Max, and then there was a Sim Draw. So there were three driver heads this year. Exact same thing. To be upfront, I didn't hit the draw because I just, in a sense, didn't have like enough time, and enough swings in me. I mean, I'd go to the range, and I'd have basically a staff bag full of the new Ping stuff, the new Callaway stuff, the new Sim stuff, and then other things peppered in there like my, Strixon irons and things like that. So I just didn't have enough swings in the body to hit that driver, which is fine because, my miss is low left anyway. Like, mine's a big snap hook. So it wasn't necessarily something that I had to hit. So I was okay with it. So I hope you guys apologize that I haven't hit that yet. I'll get around to it. It's just going to maybe take me a little time and maybe get me a little more content as we get closer to the year. So Sim2's back with more carbon, and I mean, that's the big thing with Sim. So basically, from the top, looks pretty similar to last year's Sim. When you set it down, and there's really not a huge difference. The carbon top on it is more kind of a darker finish. It's more black instead of being more silver, like last year's. Last year's had a little more kind of a silver weave to it. This one's definitely got, a darker finish. You can still see the weave, but it's darker. It's not near as light. And the outer ring here is actually blue because it's forged aluminum instead of the I guess, titanium that it was before. And then the bottom is a whole carbon plate, which is kind of cool. And the other thing that most people notice when you look at the face of all the Sim2 drivers, there's no injection ports for the speed injection face. Now, they didn't get rid of it. It's still here. There's just a single port out on the toe that I guess there used to be two kind of ports and two spots where they put the speed injection foam or whatever that material is. Now I think there's one just kind of dead center from what I've seen in the exploded view. But overall, from address, looks really similar to Sim. I do have to say that for both the Sim and the Sim Max, the faces seem to be a little deeper, which is kind of nice because, my miss is kind of low heel down here, and having more real estate to hit it off the face is always a good thing. I was kind of known for, getting that ball down near that screw on the speed injected face. So to see a little more real estate is always great. But the Sim2 was, which is kind of the most neutral flighted ball, lowest spinning head that they make. And it's a little more compact looking when you set it down. It's got a little smaller looking footprint. But overall, kind of their most neutral driver in terms of neutral ball flight. I again have my notes over here because I've hit so many drivers and stuff over the past few weeks that I had to take notes. But Sim2, the first thing you notice when you hit it, they kept the sound and the feel very similar. It's still got a really kind of low kind of crack to it. It's not a high pitched or metallic sound really. It's more of a kind of a crack, which is pretty solid. I actually like that a lot. I think the sound is really pleasant. They didn't get rid of that, which is really nice. It's pretty muted. Like I said, not really high pitched, not, anything, metallic or anything like that. It's pretty quiet, which I kind of expected with having this much carbon on the head. Typically, the more carbon you have on the head, you seem to kind of mute a lot of that noise. And I think it absorbs the vibration a little differently than, say, titanium or steel or aluminum. So the sound and feel really good. I could really feel, the ball on this thing compress off the face. It's really responsive. You can tell right away. You can see kind of I don't think you can see it, but the little shot high on the toe there. But you can definitely tell when you mishit it. The club really lets you know. Now, mishits on this, you definitely are going to notice a little more movement of the ball. So when you hit it low heel, you're going to see a little more low right to that ball, a little more curvature to the right. Same thing with the toe. You're going to see a little more draw to it. But I think part of that, the more skilled players are going to like the ability to work the ball. If you're somebody who wants to go up and pick your shot, flight the ball down, hit a draw, hit a fade, this is going to be really easy to do that with, and you're going to be able to be precise with it, which is kind of what this sim is made for. It's made for that more accomplished player, the person who's going to go out there, work the ball a little bit, or they don't necessarily want to get rid of that baby draw, baby fade, whatever they have in their swing. They just kind of want to be able to either enhance it or play with it, and that's what this driver is pretty much going to do. Definitely a flatter ball flight than Sim Max. It was a little more penetrating, a little lower, and it definitely was the lower spinning head of the two, or really of the three. It's going to be the lowest spinning. From what I've heard from people hitting these on launch monitors, I think they spin a touch more than last year's. Again, I didn't really notice that just hitting on the range. Again, the 2 days I went, there wasn't a ton of wind, but there was enough, and it was hurting a little bit. When I went again, it was the same thing, kind of left to right, slightly hurting wind. And, which is good because you weren't losing a ton of distance where you couldn't really tell how the ball was going, but it would also kind of show you, if there was any rise of the ball because of too much spin, because into that wind, you can't really cheat that. Like when it goes into the wind and there's too much spin, you're going to see that ball rise. And this thing was penetrating. It stayed low, it stayed flat, and it really was, the lowest ball flight out of the sim heads. But misses on these things on the sim, you're going to notice a little more distance loss, and like I said, you're going to notice a little more curvature to the ball when you do miss it, when you don't hit it dead center. The shot here that, again, I hit a lot of low heel. I thought the sim was definitely better than last year's, but I still lost a decent amount of distance, and it still kind of, hung that ball out to the right and dropped it quickly out of the sky. So that shot there, which is still, again, when you're hitting it down here, I mean, it's a low shot. When you're hitting it down in the heel, like barely on the grooves, you can't expect much. But it did move a little bit. I would say it was on par with my Sim Max in terms of that miss. My Sim Max may be a hair more forgiving, but overall, like just a really good ball flight. I hit it with kind of two different shafts. I hit it with the Project X RDX smoke, or the Hazardous Smoke RDX black and blue. So I kind of hit it with both. And even with the higher launching blue shaft, I mean, it still is the most penetrating flight, and it still cut through the wind really well. So overall, I think the Sim, if you're somebody looking for a little lower ball flight, you're looking for somebody who really wants to kind of maybe work the ball a little bit, it definitely offers that. I think it's a little more forgiving than last year's Sim, especially on those kind of off-center shots. I think you do carry a little more ball speed on it. But overall, the Sim is, the Sim2 is really good. It's, like I said, they didn't get rid of the sound, the shape, the look of it, all that stuff stays the same, which is really good. All the good things about it they've kept, and like I said, added maybe a little bit of forgiveness to it and a little bit better off-center shot distance. So the Sim2 was really good. I enjoyed hitting it. It was a pleasure to have on the course. But the one I really wanted to hit was the Sim Max. And the Sim Max Sim2 Max was because I'm a Sim Max guy. I typically am not a tour type, driver head type guy. Like, I want something a little bigger. I like having a little, when I look down, I like to have a little confidence knowing that, hey, there's a little more real estate for me to hit the ball, and it's going to be a little more forgiving when I do ultimately, miss somewhere on the face. Now, the Sim Max was definitely a little more stable. But it also was a little higher ball flight. So if you're someone who already hits a really high ball, the Sim2 Max may, it may not be the best choice for you. But again, that's why there's Sim2. So a little higher ball flight, but not a whole lot higher compared to my Sim from last year, or Sim Max from last year. I would say they're pretty equivalent. This may go a smidge higher. Not a ton, but maybe just a smidge. I haven't brought them out side by side yet and slapped the same shafts in them. Because I only have one Club Connects sleeve for TaylorMade drivers, so I can't, switching it back and forth is pretty tough. Or it's tough on the range. It's just one of those things that I don't want. I do it at home, but I don't want to go out there and lose a washer and all that. So, but Sim2 Max, really similar feel, sound to Sim. That kind of low crack or low pitch crack. A really pleasant sound. Again, easy to feel the ball kind of compress off the face, especially when you hit it square. It really just, has that feeling and the ball's really getting up and going. Like I said, the stability is much better. Much bigger face than Sim Max. So Sim2 Max, much bigger face than Sim Max. Way more real estate out on the toe. Definitely more real estate down on the heel. It's just a deeper face and overall larger. That was the one thing if I had to complain about my Sim, that the face was a little small. This definitely has much more room. And the nice thing about it is I noticed, for me, that low heel miss was greatly improved on Sim2 Max. So when I hit it low on the heel, cut it down near the lower two grooves on the, when you're looking at the head on the right side. But those heel lower two grooves, when you hit it kind of close down there, you definitely got a better shot out of it. You didn't see as much curvature. The ball didn't kind of fall the sky as fast. It went to the right. I mean, it still would. But for the most part, that ball would stay online better and stay in the air a little longer because it would go a little higher than Sim2. So the Sim2 Max, like I said, really good there. Definitely more stable. When you hit it, off center, toe, heel, either one, it's going to stay online better than Sim2. Just overall, it's got a little more, it's got a heavier weight in the back. There's a little more higher MOI to it. Again, it's going to launch a little higher, so you kind of have that trade-off. But overall, just a little more forgiving head, and it's noticeable. I think it's definitely noticeable in the course. If you take both these heads out on a bad swing, you're definitely going to hit the Sim Max straighter. You're going to have a better chance of finding the fairway or keeping it in play as opposed to Sim2. So, like I said, toe heel miss hits much better. Hitting it off the toe, you'll still get that draw, but like I said, not going to go offline as far. Which is really nice. I mean, it's kind of what you expect out of Sim2 Max. I mean, that's why it's the max head. But like I said, the heel shot is, I noticed the biggest difference of where you got, a more forgiveness out of it, because that is my typical miss. So noticing that on this head here, it was really nice. Launch was a little higher, and it did rise a little bit into the wind, so it definitely probably spins a little more than my Sim Max from last year. It's probably got a little more spin to it. So in terms of that, I would think I might have to go to something, maybe a touch less spin in terms of shaft, but until I get it out on the course really, or hit it on a launch monitor, you really can't tell. It doesn't have near as much draw to it as I thought it would. Like the Sim has kind of its little weight on the sole. The standard Sim is near the center. Sim Max is kind of down near the heel, and then the draw is kind of all the way down in the heel. but it didn't really have a ton of draw bias to it. I mean, like I said, I'm kind of a draw player, and it really, the club just wanted to go straight. I mean, it was a pretty neutral ball flight, I thought. Maybe a hair of draw inherently built into it, but I think it's pretty minimal. So if you're somebody who kind of fights the hook, I don't think you have to shy away from the Max because of that. But, you know, it's not a club you're going to work the ball as much. If you try to hit kind of that lower drive and cheat the wind, it's going to be much harder to do. It's really going to be harder to pull that shot off because the ball's going to want to get up quick. Shot's low on the face. Since it has that speed pocket like they've had for, you know, I don't know how many years. You know, TaylorMade's been doing it for a long time. But that low shot still on the Sim2 Max gets up pretty high. So, you know, compared to the Sim, it stays a little flatter. But overall, I really like the Sim Max. Out of the two, I, of course, will play the Sim2 Max. You know, as much as I like the Sim and I loved, you know, how it felt, how it looked, all that, I just know I need a little more forgiveness, and the Sim2 Max is definitely there. So I'm excited to get it out on the course. I really want to try it, you know, with the same shafts as I've hit with my Sim, and really see how it performs there. But overall, really impressed with the Sim2 Max. Like I said, the only thing I've noticed that with it might have a little more spin, because into the wind, I would see a little rise in the ball as it kind of got out there. It would kind of rise up into its apex instead of just boring staying out there. So like I said, if I had to kind of put one negative on it, that would be it. My other picky thing is, you know, some people say they love the kind of the blue ring around the back, which is that forged aluminum. I kind of like the old one, which was just, I think it was a black or just silver. You know, it was kind of a matching either chalk color or silver. I don't know. I kind of like that one kind of look. The blue is, I'm not going to call it distracting. It's not going to stop me from playing it. But it's, you know, it's a little more loud or out there than compared to last year. So, but again, overall, not a huge deal. But both drivers I really liked. I think they're really good. I think, you know, people always ask, is it better than last year's? I think you're going to add some forgiveness this year. I think you're going to get away with a couple shots that you might not have got away with last year with Sim. I think Sim2 and Sim2 Max will allow you to kind of get away with a little bit more and keep balls more in play. So in terms of distance, you know, like I said, I'm hitting on the range right now. So, you know, I can tell you out there, I was hitting it kind of the spots that I thought I would and that I have before. But, you know, I've heard other people say, you know, a little more spin, whatever. You know, it wasn't anything that really changed distance in terms of at least on the range for me. So, you know, when I was, you know, I lasered kind of the back of the range, which, again, I told people that I've been out to the old Royal Oak range. And from the bay I was at, it was 266 to the bottom of the net. It was like 30 degrees out, and I was basically, you know, knocking balls that would basically one hop in or land right at the bottom. So, which is, again, right where I think my Sim would be, you know, on a warm day with no wind, I'd probably hit the net going, you know, hit the net on the fly. But right now, you know, kind of one hopping or you know, landing right at the base of the net. So distance-wise, I don't think it was anything, you know, to scoff at, or it's definitely not shorter than last year's, I'm pretty sure. So both drivers, like I said, little added forgiveness, little added ball speed on mishits. That's what you're going to get. You know, if you had a Sim and you're going to Sim2, that's what you're going to find. I think you're going to, you know, add some forgiveness, add some ball speed on mishits, and like I said, get away with maybe a shot or two around that you didn't get away with your Sims. So that's what I'm kind of excited for in terms of trying it. And like I said, I can't wait to get you know, my club connects into the Sim2 Max head and start hitting some of the shafts that I've had success with, you know, in the past with my Sims. So, you know, we'll see how that goes, and we'll, you know, do some more testing with it, of course, because, you know, what else do I have to do this winter other than hit balls? So now we get into the fairways, and I think the fairway that most people are kind of interested in, for the most part, it would be Sim2, the titanium head. So they're bringing the titanium head back. I thought the titanium head last year was really good. It was a kind of a cool head. It was a little bigger. But I didn't actually own one. I never actually hit it enough where I was going to go out and just grab one and put it in the bag. And last year was kind of a tough year for 3-woods for me in terms of finding something that I truly love. So this year, definitely going to try some 3-woods, and I've got some ideas of what might go in the bag already. But Sim2 titanium. So again, the titanium one there, you're going to have titanium face on it. And then to kind of counteract a lot of the weight that they're using titanium with, they basically got an 80-gram V-steel sole. So the V-steel sole was kind of designed to really give you good turf interaction, be able to get it through the rough, hit it off a tight lie off the fairway, and just kind of glide through the turf a little bit better. And what they did was they made that like an 80-gram weight to go along with the head. So it's got a really low, all the weight's kind of set low in the head. And I think last year a lot of the complaint was that, at least TaylorMade said a lot of the complaint was that the club didn't quite launch high enough. It went really flat, and the size was big. Like when you set it down, it was a large head, but it didn't fly super high. It was kind of flat, and some players who, you know, really wanted kind of the added, whether it was added distance or added forgiveness of the titanium head, you know, if they didn't hit a high ball, it was tough to play this head. So this year, definitely a smaller profile. When you set it down, it pretty much looks identical in size to the Sim2 Max head, which last year the titanium one was substantially bigger. You would notice it was, you know, when you set the two down, you could tell which was which. But the Sim2 titanium head, much more compact. You know, in terms of looking at it, I think a lot of people are going to like the look a lot better. The face is deep enough. It's not crazy. It's not a whole lot deeper than the standard Sim Max, but it's probably maybe a hair deeper than it. In terms of flight, definitely gets up high. It gets up higher than last year's Sim or Sim Titanium. So sound and feel really good. It's actually, you know, got a little more like a lower pitch crack at impact than I thought it would. I thought with the titanium face it was going to be kind of that high pitched ting sound to it, and it really doesn't have a ton of that. The actual Sim2 Max actually has more of that, but yeah, it's got more of a kind of a crack sound to it. It's lower pitched, which I think most players, you know, kind of like. You know, it's pretty responsive. It's pretty easy to tell. You know, if you hit the ball, you know, heel or toe, you know, high toe, low heel, but you still get a similar sound. Like the sound doesn't change a ton. You can kind of feel it, but the sound doesn't change a ton when you miss it. It still kind of stays that crack sound. You know, the ball jumps off the face pretty fast when you hit it. I was hitting these mostly off the turf. I did hit some off the tee, but off the turf, definitely easier to elevate. It definitely got up higher than last year's, but it was still fairly flat. It was still a penetrating ball flight. I mean, if you're a big, you know, kind of a high ball hitter, the Sim2 Titanium is probably going to fit you better than the Sim2 Max. But it really comes off, the ball comes off hot. It seems to carry a ton of ball speed. You know, again, hitting it out into the range, it was kind of doing the same thing. It was kind of coming short of that net for me, which is fine. There's a green out there with a red flag that was like 210, and it was basically flying over that green. So I have no doubt that it was, you know, doing the 230-ish kind of type distance that I usually see, or 220-ish off the turf. But yeah, it definitely launches higher. Toe and heel mishits stay on line really well. I think part of having like all that weight on the bottom of the club head really adds some forgiveness to it. Hitting it off the toe, hitting off the heel, the ball actually still gets up okay. It comes out a little lower, but I don't think anything lower than you expect. But it still carries a ton of ball speed. And I think those shots, you know, where they lack in the height, they definitely still get a lot of distance out of it. And some of it you're gonna have to rely on the roll to get that distance. But when you miss it, you know, on the toe, on the heel, you're still going to generate a good amount of ball speed, which is really nice. And honestly, it's like I said, it's pretty forgiving. It wants to go straight for the most part. Again, this one didn't have, you know, inherently a lot of draw to it. It was pretty neutral, just wanted to go straight. I wouldn't say it, you know, was a fade 3-wood by any means, but you know, a straight ball flight, and it was really fun to hit. I do have to say it's a little harder to, you know, on this one to work the ball. And again, I'm not a guy who really tries to work the ball, but, you know, if you walk up and try to hit a cut, try to hit a fade, try to hit a draw, it's a little harder to do with this. And I think, again, because they move all that mass so low and farther back, it's harder to do. It doesn't spin a ton. I mean, into the wind a little bit. Ball was penetrating and still, you know, kind of cut through the wind. Kind of like Sim2, the driver. Those things, they both kind of reminded me of that. Just kind of cut through the wind, stayed low. And but again, higher than last year. I think last year it was easy to hit some bullets, especially if we didn't hit it, you know, right on the screws. And this year, I think the Sim2 is definitely more playable. And, you know, in terms of distance, I don't necessarily think that it went a whole lot farther than Sim2 Max, but they two had totally different shafts in them too. Like the Sim2 Max had, you know, a real lightweight stock Fujikura Ventus in it. This had a Tensei Raw, I want to say it was like a 70 gram in there, so it definitely was something a little more comfortable in terms of what I'm used to hitting. But the titanium was really good. I love the you know, I think a lot of players are going to like that smaller look to it. I actually kind of miss the bigger look of the old one just because I hit my 3-wood off the tee a lot, and I think the old one kind of gave a little more confidence because of its size. That, you know, if you miss it a little bit off the tee, it's still going to go. But yeah, like I said, a little more penetrating flight, still going to take a little more work to hit it high off the turf. If you're a player who kind of struggles with trajectory, like, you know, I wouldn't say I struggle, but I don't hit it high. I could hit it high enough. I don't know if I would love hitting it as high as I did. You know, again, I might have to go to something with a little higher launching shaft or something like that. But it was, you know, a really good head. I really liked the titanium aspect of it. It sounded good. It went really well, and it carried a ton of speed on a ton of ball speed on miss hits. So that part of it is really good. And like I said, if you're somebody who kind of hits a high ball, titanium might keep it down a little bit. It might give you a little flatter trajectory. So, but overall, again, I think a big improvement. I think a lot of players are going to like this compared to last year's, just because of the aesthetics of it, the size of it, and the ability that it goes just a little bit higher. So. Overall, really good 3-wood, and you know, something that you know, definitely is worth looking into if you're looking for, you know, excuse me, something that launches a little flatter. Now, Sim2 Max Fairway, which is and the Sim2 Titanium has the adjustable hosel, so it's got you know, the adjustable hosel. You can change, you know, you can, you know, add loft, you know, take some loft off it, whatever. I mean, it's got that adjustable hosel, which is kind of nice. Sim2 Max is bonded, so it's going to be that glued hosel, which, you know, for 3-wood, I don't really care. I mean, I don't typically change a ton of shafts in 3-woods, so it's not a huge deal to me. And honestly, once, you know, a 15-degree 3-wood or something like that is pretty much what I'm going to play. I don't really mess with it a ton. So, but Sim2 Max was actually has the slightly bigger look to it. When you set it down, it actually looks a touch bigger than Sim2 Titanium. But overall, it is a little more, you know, I'm going to say it's a little more forgiving head. It's pretty stable. I would say they're both pretty close. The Sim2 Max probably has a touch more draw to it inherently, but there's also the Sim2 Max Draw. So if you really need some draw, there's one of those with even more weight in the heel. Sound is a little more high-pitched, a little more metallic, and being under the stainless steel, you know, I think that's kind of I guess I thought it would be a little more muted than it was, a little more of the crack sound, but it's got a little more metallic, you know, higher pitched ping to it. Again, nothing that I think you know, is going to turn anybody off of it, but it's got a little, you know, higher pitched sound to it. It's a little louder than Sim2 Titanium, but nothing crazy. So the overall look is really similar when you set them down. Like I said, Sim2 Max may be a hair bigger, but it's pretty similar. You know, there's not a ton difference to them when they're set down. You know, definitely a very stable head. It's really easy to hit. You know, launch is definitely higher when you compare it to Sim2 Titanium. Definitely has a higher launch to it. Ball gets up immediately faster and has kind of that higher apex and falls out of the sky just, you know, a little softer. I think players who need help getting the ball in the air a little bit are definitely going to gravitate towards Sim2 Max as opposed to Sim2 Ti. Ball speed is actually really good. I mean, I think distance-wise, again, hitting it on the range, I don't think it was, if it was behind Sim2 Titanium, it wasn't by much. It was pretty close behind it. Two totally different ball flights. You know, the Sim2 Titanium would definitely get a little more roll, but overall, I think the Sim2 Max really got out there and you know, like I said, got up in the air, had way more carry, less roll, but it was easy to hit. It was really easy to kind of square the club up and hit the center of the club face repeatedly. I think the first like 5 shots, I looked down and I was honestly like dead center all 5, and I was kind of shocked. I thought I would, you know, be a little more all over the place, but really easy to square up, really easy to hit it straight. And again, like I said, maybe just a touch of draw bias built into it, but not much. I mean, for the most part, I was hitting pretty straight balls. You know, it is, you're not going to hit as many right as you do with you know, Sim2 Ti, I don't think. But just a little bit of a draw to it. Nothing crazy. Definitely spins a little more. You can tell, I mean, again, higher ball flight, but again, into the wind, you'd see maybe a little rise into the apex, you know, with that added spin, you know, off the turf and off the tee. So you could still work it a little bit. You can still knock down shots with the Sim2 Max off the tee. They, of course, didn't go as low as Sim2 Titanium. I mean, if you're trying to hit kind of like a stinger shot with a Sim2 Titanium, pretty easy to do. A little harder to do with Sim2 Max, but I don't think it's made for that player. You know, I think it's made for somebody who's going to want to hit it higher, you know, regardless, even if they're working the ball. So, but overall, really a good 3-wood. I think in terms of choices, I would go with Sim2 Max as opposed to Sim2 Tie. It's just one of those. It goes a little higher. It's a little easier to launch off the turf, and that is where I struggle big time with my 3-wood. I don't hit it off the turf a lot, but when I do, you know, I struggle getting the ball high enough in the air. And if there is a par 5 that I'm going for in 2, or something like that, I just, you know, like I said, I think Sim2 Max, I'm just going to rely too much on roll. And if there's if there's bunkers or something like that in front, you know, I'm just not going to be able to get it over there and get it onto the green, where I think Sim2 Max gives me that ability. So Sim2 Max was really good. Shots hit kind of low heel and high toe. Low heel actually got up in the air pretty good, which I think you'd expect from a 3-wood that hits a little higher. Shots on the toe definitely kind of, you know, flared up and lost some distance just because of how high they kind of jumped off and went. But again, I think, you know, you're missing the ball. You're not expecting it to go, you know, 230 down the middle of the fairway. So, but again, like I said, the overall ease of hitting this thing in terms of squaring it up and hitting it well repeatedly was kind of, you know, surprising. I was impressed with how easy it was to hit. And even with kind of a, you know, this is a Ventus Blue 6S, so like a 60-gram fairway shaft, and, you know, a little lighter than what I'm used to playing, but again, it was, and it did launch high. So I think putting something like a Ventus Red in here, like a 70-gram would definitely be, you know, easier to play, or, you know, would give me kind of a more traditional ball flight, knock that down a little bit. But overall, like I said, I think this is going to be the most popular choice. One, it's going to be cheaper, but 2, I think it's going to offer more golfers the chance to get the ball up in the air easier and hit it higher and longer. So overall, really good. Like I said, Sim2 Max would probably be the one I'd play as opposed to Sim2 Tie. I don't think I have a spot to put it here on my desk, so you just have to, you know, take my word for it that it's there and really good. But no, Sim2 Max is really solid. It may sit, and the only thing with some of the bonded hosels that you run into is some of them sit a little closed. This one's pretty square. If anything, it may be like a ½ degree closed. Some of them you may have to, like, you know, go to your local shop and set a couple down and grab the one that's, you know, the most square. That's the only downside. When you move to the Sim2 Max Draw version of that, you'll definitely notice that it's a little shut, which it's meant to. I mean, you're trying to, you know, hit a draw. So really a solid fairway offering from TaylorMade. I mean, I like both of them, and I think they suit 2 different players really well. You know, high ball hitters will probably gravitate towards Sim2, and, you know, the more traditional player who needs a little help gravitate towards the Sim2 Max, and then the player who needs the most help and needs to kind of turn it over the easiest, you know, there's Sim2 Max Draw. So a lot of options there, but for me, myself, I think I'm a Sim Max guy in both. But really, like I said, the Sim2 Max is really good, and probably not too much shorter than Sim2 Tie. I don't think there's a huge difference there in terms of total distance. So we move to hybrids, and hybrids this year there's actually, I mean, I guess there were a couple last year, but this year we're going, okay, I got to get rid of the old 3-wood on the desk there. Ain't going to happen. Just in the way, so it's got to go. So this year, the first one was Sim2 Max. So there was Sim Max as a hybrid last year. This year, Sim2 Max, very similar in terms of design. It's a little bigger head, you know, like the Sim, but the shape is still really good, like the Sim Max was last year. You know, when you set it down, it's got a really good look to it. It's a little more, like I said, a little more rounded. Also a little larger, and, you know, the face progression from hosel to leading edge, there's definitely kind of some onset, which I think helps give you a little confidence that you're going to get under the ball, get it up in the air, and be able to hit it high and soft. So that part of it is really good. And like I said, the look of it, you know, if you were to set it down, you know, it looks pretty much just like Sim Max. So really for traditional shape, really familiar shape, you know, definitely easy to get in the air. Again, kind of like the 3-wood. Super easy to get the thing up in the air. It launches really high. You know, and the same thing with this thing, really easy to square up. Like when you put some swings on there, I mean, like I'm just kind of looking at it right now and looking at the ball marks I put on. They're all pretty much dead center, which is not my game. Usually not by any means. So, definitely something that, you know, easy to square up, definitely easy to hit it straight. And I think it wanted to go more straight than, you know, than it wanted to draw, but there is some draw to it. I mean, it's not the most anti-left hybrid in the world. So for, you know, some of you better players, bigger hitters who, you know, that's the biggest, you know, thing of finding a hybrid is finding something that doesn't go left. You know, this one, I don't know if it's going to be something that you're going to be, you know, beating down the doors of your local shop to get your hands on, because I don't think it's a totally anti-left club. I think it's got some left in it. Nothing crazy. And again, I'm a guy who kind of hits a draw, and I don't think there was a ton of draw to it. I mean, it went a little left, especially next to the other hybrid out there, but it was really, you know, not something that I was worried a whole lot on the range with the ball going way left. It just kind of hit nice, gentle draws. But again, it did want to kind of go straight. Carry was great because, like I said, it basically got the ball up in the air instantly. And distance was pretty much what I expect. They sent over a 4 hybrid. And a 4 hybrid for me, which I used to play, I don't anymore. A 4 hybrid for me was probably in that, you know, 210-ish, you know, range in terms of distance. Carry distance was probably right around, you know, just under 210 or right around it. And this was pretty much right on. Like I said, there's a green out that at the Royal Oak Range, which is a red flag, and from the bay I was in, I think it said 207. I wasn't that guy who lasered it, but it was like 207. I did laser the back net, but I didn't laser the flag. And I was basically just hitting balls at that green, and they were basically hitting kind of the front half of that green and rolling up to almost pin high on every shot. And again, range balls in the cold with a little bit of hurting wind. I think this thing, you know, in terms of distance, is exactly, you know, that gap for me. You know, now if I was to buy one, I'd probably go the 3 because I'd want a little more distance out of it. But the 4 went really well. It was really repeatable. There wasn't anything like, you know, a hot spot on the face or anything like that, where if you caught it in the right spot, it would, you know, add another 6-7 yards. Everything I hit was pretty much controllable. Like I said, went up high, landed soft. When I hit that green, it would have maybe a couple yards of release, and that would be about it. It would basically hit kind of, like I said, that front half, roll just a little bit, stop, and be done. Now, I know that's not a traditional green. It's kind of a section of grass that's mowed slightly shorter than the rest of the grass around it, but still, I mean, it was something that, you know, at the height and at the descent angle that it was coming down at, I don't think you have to worry about anything about this thing rolling out. I think going for par 5s and 2, or, you know, hitting into long par 3s, I think you're going to have a good amount of control, be able to get the ball to stop. It did spin a little bit. I think part of that's to blame on, you know, it's a 70-gram shaft. It's kind of that Ventus Blue non-velo core. It's not the HB. It's just a Ventus shaft there, kind of their stock offering, which is fine. But I think both those things, they do add a little spin. Again, nothing crazy, but you know, for the high spin, high, you know, launch players, you know, again, I think this is going to be aimed more for that player who needs a little more help, you know, than the guy who's trying to hit it low and hit fades with it. So, but overall, I think, you know, it's a good looking head. It feels good. It sounds good. The sound of it is again kind of like Sim Max Fairway, a little more metallic, a little higher pitched. But it's pleasant, you know. I didn't mind the sound at all. It was pretty good. So had that little gentle ting to it when it went, and like I said, the ball just went, you know, kind of straight up in the air, went about 205 yards, fell out of the sky, and probably rolled out to about 210-ish or something like that. So maybe a little less than that, but like I said, overall, just a really good hybrid that is going to be aimed and you know, at players who kind of all abilities, and I think they're going to sell an absolute ton of them. So. Like I said, miss hits are pretty good. When you hit it low in the face, the ball still gets up. It has no problem with that. Again, it's got that speed pocket on the bottom that helps with that. And you know, turf interaction, I can't really say because I was hitting it off a mat, so there's no real, you know, I can't say it was a great out of the rough or off the fairway. You know, judging by last year's, I think it's, you know, it looks really similar. I think you have no problem hitting it out of the rough, hitting it off a tight lie. It's going to be pretty simple to get kind of under that ball and get it up and out. Now, the club that I was kind of the most shocked with from the lineup, and I guess just shocked just because, one, I didn't know it was coming. I didn't really expect it. And two, I guess I don't know, I just didn't expect to hit it, or I don't know, I guess it wasn't part of the line. And then when we opened the box and it was there, I was kind of shocked. And the Sim2 Rescue. So the Sim2 Rescue is going to be the hybrid for the more skilled player, and it's definitely a lot smaller. It's kind of all, it's a black finish. The top is all kind of black. It's a little bit textured, like they painted it kind of like carbon fiber, but I'm pretty sure it's all steel. It's got a speed pocket in it, but much smaller than the Sim Max. It's got a little more of a teardrop shape to it. I won't call it pear just because I just don't know if it's that, but it's not as fully rounded as the Sim Max. It's got a little more of a teardrop or pear shape to it, which is nice. I mean, when you set it down, it looks really good. For better players, they're really going to like the fact that it's definitely compact. It sits pretty much dead square at the standard 19.5 on the 3 hybrid. The face progression doesn't come out as far, so I mean, when you go from the hosel to the face, it still comes out, in terms of onset of touch, but much less than the Sim2 Max. But the Sim2 Rescue is a kind of a more of a player's hybrid. It's smaller. You're going to be able to work the ball. It's definitely less left. But hitting them side by side, I mean, the first shots, the sound and feel are great. The sound is super low pitched. It's just kind of like a crack. It's almost like it's like a wood bat hitting it. It's just kind of a knock that goes out, and the ball just kind of jumps off the base. It does seem hot. I wouldn't say crazy hot. Like, I don't think it's the craziest longest hybrid in the world, but I don't think it's meant to be. I think it's meant to be a kind of a precision piece where you're hitting a certain distance. You want to kind of repeat that. But sound and feel are really good. It's like I said, it's almost like a wood bat, kind of a crack when the ball leaves the face, which is really nice. Ball flight is way lower than Sim2 Max. Definitely more penetrating. For players who don't hit high, it's definitely going to be a little more work to get this thing up in the air. But when you hit it solid, it still gets up. But like I said, super penetrating ball flight, which is nice. If you want to work the ball, you can do that. If you want to hit a low shot, no problem. If you want to hit it high, well, players who hit it high already, you're going to be able to do that. Just a real kind of precision hybrid, and it really has like zero left to it. When I was hitting balls out there, I other than having like a terrible swing path and having that ball going left no matter what, it basically it went straight to slight fade. I mean, if anything, it kind of dropped out of the sky down to the right. After going straight, it would kind of fall right, which I think a lot of players would really like and are looking forward to a hybrid. Like I said, sound and feel are phenomenal, really responsive. When you hit it off the heel, hit it off the toe, you're going to hear it. You're going to know right away that you kind of missed, but also you're going to get penalized a little more too. When you hit it off the toe, hit it off the heel, you're going to see a more drastic drop off in distance. Now for me, it was interesting because I really like this thing. I don't know if I'm going to hold the green well enough with it. Hitting it in, again, long par 3s. It'll be great off the tee for the short par 4s when I do play hybrid off the tee a lot. Because it's going to get some decent roll. It's going to come down at a pretty shallow descent angle, but I don't know if that's going to be great for trying to hit it into par 5s. Again, working the ball, no problem. If you want to flight it down, tee off the turf, whatever, you're going to be able to do that with no problem. It really is easy to manipulate the ball fairly well. Again, when you miss heel toe, you're going to see more curvature compared to the Max. So, I slapped a couple kind of high toe there, and you're going to see a little more movement to the ball. But again, I think you're going to expect that with a hybrid like this. So, with this thing here, it's a really good hybrid. I was kind of really impressed with it. The sound and feel are great. I really liked hitting it. I don't know, shaft-wise, what I would have to put in it to make it do... make it play for me like I'd want it to. I think I'd be doing a lot of manipulation with it to try to get it, to hit it high enough. But for you guys who, struggle finding hybrids because, the ball just goes too far left, it goes too high, you can't control it in any ways. I think this is built, for that player. If you're somebody who struggles, I think you found something that's worth trying because, like I said, it does fly low, it flies flat enough. It's not super forgiving, so you can work the ball, and it doesn't want to go left. I mean, I wouldn't call it crazy fade bias, but it's got some, it's neutral to falling right at the target at the end. So a really good hybrid for those more accomplished, more skilled players, and for those people who struggle to find a hybrid. I think like I said, if you're somebody who wants to get rid of the 3-iron but just can't hit a hybrid because of the all the problems I kind of listed, well, there you go. I think it's something definitely worth looking into. But the Sim2 Rescue was definitely kind of the highlight or surprise of the line, just because, like I said, I didn't know it was going to be there. And then when it showed up, I said, wow, it looks really good. And then when I took it to the course or took it to the range, I didn't expect to hit it as well as I did, other than I didn't quite hit it high enough, which stinks. But again, I think maybe slapping a different shaft in there or something like that would be helping a little bit. Or, do I go something like instead of the 19.5-degree 3, do I go to the 4 and then maybe open the face just a touch to kind of turn that disc slightly down and play it at, like, 21 degrees or something like that, and still be able to get the ball up in the air and carry. So, but yeah, really good. Like I said, love the sound and feel of it. Overall, I think the Sim2 line is going to be really good. I think they've kind of nailed sound and feel, which, like I said, I hit the ping stuff a little louder, a little more, I don't want to call it clanky, but it's louder. It's a ping sound. I prefer the Sim2 sound and feel over that. But overall, like a really good line. I think there's something for everybody, whether you're a skilled player wanting to work the ball. They've got, like, the Sim2. If you're somebody who really needs a lot of forgiveness, they've got the Sim2 Max Draw stuff. So there's just a lot of options out there, I think, for just about any player. I didn't hit the irons yet. There's a Sim2 iron and a Sim2 OS iron that came in literally like Monday, and I got photos of them, and that was about it. So they're down here in my basement. I haven't hit them yet. Hopefully I'll get them out there and hit them soon. But yeah, I haven't been able to hit those yet, so hopefully soon. But that's the Sim2 Max line. So I was really impressed. Like I said, I've had success with TaylorMade's products in the past, so it was kind of an easy transition over to it, or easy transition to hit it. So like I said, really liked it, really impressed, and it'll be interesting to get it on the course and see where it ends up. When I start hitting drives and you walk out to your ball, are you in the same spots? Are you hitting the same irons into greens, or are you hitting less? Are you hitting a little more? All those things will be interesting once I get out to play a little bit more. So, but right now, range-wise, I'm a fan. So if you got any questions, anything like that, hit me up on Instagram at ClubJunkiePod, which is, the @ symbol, ClubJunkiepod. So ClubJunkiePod, hit me up on there. I love answering guys' questions. I love chatting with you guys. Hit me up in there. It's been a lot of fun. You can see my brand new Srixon ZX7 irons that I stripped all the chrome off, which I think ended up awesome. I'm looking at them right now. I think I'm a big fan of how they're looking. They're already starting to kind of patina a little bit and darken. So I can't wait to get them on the course and have them really kind of rust up. I know I could artificially kind of rust them quicker, but I think I'm going to let nature take its course. So just got those epoxied back up. And I actually put the standard Modus 120s back in them that I ordered them with. So that, and then I put the ZX Utility I actually put in the bag. I took that out of the range again. I hit it really well, but I did put the Fujikuro Pro 115 in that. So going to be kind of a cool combo. But the stripped ZX7s are on Instagram, so that's pretty cool. I'll keep it updated photos going with how they patina over the winter. But hopefully when we get to the season, they'll be nice and dark and looking good. So, like I said, if you want to, talk further, like I said, hit me up on Instagram at ClubJunkiePod. And, yeah, we'll talk to you guys next week. Maybe we'll do a little new Callaway stuff. I know I kind of did it out of order, but I think it was more important to hit Sim right now because it was just released. So, anyway, guys, hit me up. Thanks again. Appreciate you guys listening, and we'll talk to you soon.